Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Chevy Chase Communities Forum for Democratic Candidates for Montgomery County's District 1 Council seat. My name is Drew Morrison. I'm the Vice Chair of the Chevy Chase Village Board of Managers and a member of the planning team for tonight's event. We'd like to thank the 5 neighboring Chevy Chase area municipalities and community organizations that are sponsoring tonight's event, including Chevy Chase Village, the East Bethesda Citizens Association, Rollingwood Citizens Association, the Town of Chevy Chase, and the Village of Chevy Chase Section 5. One of the questions for the candidates might be, who are the sponsoring organizations? We'd also like to thank Montgomery Municipal Cable for their assistance in producing tonight's event, including providing the AV equipment and team, live streaming the event, making it available on YouTube, and airing the event at a later date on MMCTV Channel 16. A big round of applause for MMC. They are an invaluable part of our community. Before we begin, I'd like to ask our audience to silence their phones, and ideally, please don't use Wi-Fi because it could interfere with some of the MMC channels in the Lawton Center here. So regular housekeeping, but if you can avoid using Wi-Fi, that would also be helpful. Tonight's Democratic District 1 Candidate Forum is the first of 3 candidate events, all here at the Jane E. Lawton Community Center. The second event will be a forum for Democratic candidates for county executive, taking place next Sunday, April 26th, from 3 to 5 p.m. All 5 Democratic candidates will be joining us, and that event will also be live streamed by MMC. The third event, on April 28th at 7 p.m., will be an open house featuring Democratic and Republican candidates for the 4 at-large seats on the Montgomery County Council and Republican candidates for county executive. There are flyers at the door if you'd like more information on those events, just to put them on your calendar. Please, we'd love to see you come out then as well. We are eager to use our time tonight as effectively as possible, so a quick word about tonight's format. In recent weeks, area residents were provided with an online form to submit questions and identify the topics most important to them. Thank you for the many residents who responded. That was terrific. And tonight's questions were developed from that input. We will not be taking questions from the floor. All answers will be limited to either 90 seconds or 2 minutes, and there will also be a quick answer lightning round. Yeah, should be interesting. Our moderator tonight, we are very fortunate to have as our moderator, Chevy Chase resident Lyric Winnick. Lyric is an award-winning writer and former journalist who has collaborated on more than 30 books with major political, national, and international figures. Many of her books have been New York Times bestsellers. 4 of them debuted at #1. Lyric is an active local community volunteer, and she served for 3 years as the PTSA president for Bethesda Chevy Chase High School. In 2022, Lyric was chosen as the PTA President of the Year for all of Montgomery County by the Montgomery County Council of PTAs. Lyric's experience adds up to a deep knowledge of the issues at play in District 1. She is uniquely qualified to help us learn which candidates might best serve our residents when the winner of the general election takes office in January. So with that, let me introduce Lyric Winnick.
Thank you so much, Lou, and welcome to our candidates. Welcome to all of you. Thank you for spending a Tuesday night here. This is probably the most consequential election in Montgomery County history across the county for all the positions, and your participation is vital. So thank you for being here. Thank you most of all to our candidates, Ms. Spielberg, Ms. Yang, Debbie, and Julie. I've been truly fortunate to work with both of you on different community issues, and I appreciate that. And Mr. Morrison, Drew, we met in my neighborhood, so thank you all, and it's nice to see you in this venue. And especially, I want to thank you for all three of you for stepping up to run. That takes courage, it takes commitment, it takes a lot of time, and you deserve all our thanks for putting yourselves out there and trying to help us. So now, let's get started. We're going to begin with each of you introducing yourselves very briefly. So we're going to start alphabetically with Drew Morrison.
Great. So I'm Drew Morrison. I live in downtown Bethesda, having grown up in Mohican Hills and Edgemoor in District 1, and having grown up missing a lot of shots at those basketball hoops playing Montgomery County basketball. I'm currently a senior policy advisor at the Maryland Department of Transportation, and I'm running because in this moment we have an urgent need to respond to the federal cuts' impact on our job base and address affordability challenges around childcare, energy, housing, rising property taxes. And I believe I bring the record of accomplishment and a forward-looking new vision to address those issues head on. And that's why I'm running for this seat. Thank you.
Debbie Spielberg, and I have more than 17 years of experience working at the County Council and for the executive branch, and I currently serve as special assistant to the county executive. I want to bring my experience to hold a out-of-control planning board accountable to our residents, to work for a sustainable budget for MCPS that prioritizes student learning and safety, and I want to work with our partners to develop and create good jobs that target our strengths and our values. Thank you very much.
My turn? Yes. Hi. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. I am Julie Yang. I'm many things. I'm a parent, an educator, an immigrant, a community advocate, a small business owner, and a long-term homeowner in this district. But my most visible role is as a trusted, elected official serving on the Board of Education. Now, let me tell you why I'm running. I'm running to protect and strengthen our community, so we can be a place where people can learn, work, and live together here all their life. Tonight, I want to earn your vote.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And if I could just ask you for the balance of the forum to hold your applause, and then you can go big for your all the candidates, I hope, at the end. All right. We're going to start with a 90-second question, and this is focused on your priorities should you win the primary and then the general election. What are 3 pieces of legislation you would like to introduce in your first 3 months in office? And we will start with Mr. Morrison.
Sure. So 3 critical pieces of legislation that I'd like to take on. And the first thing I'll say before I introduce any of those bills, it's important for me to establish my constituent service and my operation to listen to all of you about what you see as core priorities. The first thing that I want to do is make sure that we're taking on the permitting process in Montgomery County that's served as a major challenge for small businesses growing. Many folks have told me that when they open a business, they can't succeed because of how challenging it's been. I want to make sure we pass legislation to adopt more of a permit manager system. I want to make sure that we're addressing some of the fees that are standing in the way of small business. I'm a big movie buff, and did you know that every single movie theater in Montgomery County has to pay an annual fee to stay open? At a time like now, I think that's a low-hanging fruit solution that we can make to address some of those challenges. And I want to make sure that in county government, we're continuing to put ourselves on a shot clock in terms of the services and needs that you provide so that we have a clear customer service standard for the work that you're seeking to achieve and really hold ourselves to account. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Spielberg?
So the question is which legislation. There's a lot I'd like to do in terms of legislation. One, we need a better tree preservation law. Our current one is based on how much sediment you disturb. It's not focused on trees. Trees are incredibly important for the environment, for stormwater management, and are beautiful as well. I want to hold a hearing to understand why Bethesda has not gotten any of the 13 parks that were promised in the 2017 Bethesda sector plan. So we need to understand why it's not working and how it will work. It's important for the county council and especially the district council member to ask the questions and hold the planning board accountable for decisions that are made, and when decisions are not well made, or when things are not moving, to ask what is going on. I would also move to repeal the 20-year tax giveaway, which I'll come back to later.
Thank you. Ms. Yang?
Yes. So for too long, one of the reasons I'm running is that our economy is slowing. And if our children cannot find jobs, they leave. If young family cannot find house, they leave. If businesses wait months for permitting to start, they leave. So the legislation I will focus on will be number one, will be job creation. We are a wonderful county with a lot of green initiative and priorities, such as clean energy, solar energy for our building. So one of the things I'm looking at, it's apprenticeship program initiatives, that legislation to encourage the setup of apprenticeship programs. Number two, we need businesses of all sizes, and we know that 90% of our business are small businesses, and the first 3 years are hardest for business to survive. So a piece of legislation I would like to introduce will be how to give incentive for the first 3 years for businesses under $250,000. And last one will be streamlined permitting process. I would like to see how we can, without giving up community feedback, to streamline the process to avoid unnecessary delay. That will be my 3 legislative priority. Thank you.
Thank you. This next question is a 2-minute question. WUSA captured a statement from a county resident during a recent public hearing on the new budget proposal. He said, and I quote, "My property tax bill has increased 100% in the last 12 years. To the council, you ban everything. You raise taxes year after year, you increase fees, you waste it on bloated, useless spending that benefits no one, and you have the nerve to come here playing Oliver Twist. Please, sir, I want some more. Are you kidding me?" End quote. Is this a fair statement? And what parts of his critique would you seek to address were you on the council? We'll start with Ms. Spielberg.
Let's see where to begin. So the county government, first of all, the county balances its budget every year. The county government delivers a huge amount of services and does it well. Are there places that that the county could do better? Absolutely. But one thing that's important to look at is we need to rethink the tax structure in Montgomery County. Too much of the burden is placed on residents, and with fees that have been eliminated so that development does not pay its share of the infrastructure, residents have to pay. In Washington, D.C. and Northern Virginia, there's a different rate for residential than for commercial. And commercial is higher in both D.C. and Northern Virginia. Businesses are moving to Northern Virginia because they asked for transportation and infrastructure, and Virginia is delivering it. So they're going there for their higher taxes. So we need to make sure that what we're doing makes that we're using our resources well, and we need to move the burden off of residents and do a more fair and appropriate tax structure.
Thank you. Ms. Yang?
Wow, what a sentiment. And I believe many in the community can relate to that. We have rising costs, and it has become unaffordable. This reminds me of a neighbor in Joanne in the Bannerburn community. She has been in her house for 50 years, but on a fixed income with rising assessment and the property tax, it has become harder and harder every year for her to stay in the house. And now this is where we need to really address it. We need to look at grow our economy so that we grow the pie so we can fund all the government services that we so valued, right? By generating a bigger tax base. This is where we need to say Montgomery County is open for business. We welcome you to come back. And this is where we connect talent with job opportunity so that we not only grow talent, we build our economy around them. And this is where we will say that we need to continue to invest. Let's take a look at that. Our primary engine for economic development is Economic Development Corporation. But do you know that their budget is less than 0.1% of our total budget? So to sum up, I concur that sentiment, and let's do better to say Montgomery County is open for business, and let's do better to generate the tax to relieve the burden on our residents and to provide the service that we so value in Montgomery County.
Thank you. Mr. Morrison?
So I want to highlight two pieces in particular. Where we've been on budgets and tax, and where we've been on actually improving customer service to serve residents with the dollars we've been asking for. So many of you know there's a proposed property tax increase that gentleman was responding to that would increase your property tax by 6% this year. But the reality is it relies on one-time budget funding, which means that if you did nothing else, the next year would be another 9%. So we're looking at a 15% two-year property tax increase on top of the assessment growth that you've seen. Fundamentally, we have not done enough to live within our means. I've had to do that work. At the Maryland Department of Transportation, one year we had to cut $3 billion from the transportation budget, and it was difficult. We had to go visit all 24 counties across the state after we had done that and talked about what we weren't funding. But we have to do a better job of living within the resources that we have, and I bring experience in that. And the second is we have to do better on constituent service. When I knock on doors, I talk to too many people who feel like Montgomery County government, whether at the council or the executive level, is not effective and responsive. So while in my first 3 months I'll be looking at those legislative ideas, as I mentioned, the first thing I want to do is make sure we have a high-quality constituent service operation in District 1, and that we're holding every part of county government to better deliver on the services that we need. At the state, one of the things that we found when we got there with the Moore-Miller administration is that one of our core programs, the Minority Business Enterprise Program, it was taking us a year to certify small businesses in our community that wanted to help grow here in Maryland, and we worked to change that. I'll be fundamentally focused on making sure county government is quicker, more responsive, and you get more for your hard-earned dollars. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a 90-second question. What 3 specific changes would you propose to the county budget? And consider starting your sentence with either I would cut, or I would slow the rate of increase, or I would add, or I would expand. Ms. Yang?
Sure. This is the year that I am not supporting a property tax increase. As we are really experiencing affordability issue. So number one, this is a year we look at the budget through the lens of going back to the basics. So this is not the year to start a new initiative. Number two is we need to get a handle, for example, on the time use in our county government. Last year, the police overtime doubled to $25 million. That tells me that we need to do staffing better. That tells me that we need to do recruitment better to achieve better budget efficiency. And number three is we got to use technology better. And we know that technology have evolved, and many positions or tasks might have been automated. So it is time to work with our trusted partners in the labor. They want to serve our residents well, to look at what consolidation of positions that we can have, and repurpose them to better serve our residents. So this is a lean year, and everyone need to do some belt tightening, all agencies, including the school system. But we cannot build it on the back of our employees. We will look for efficiency, and I will ask smart questions and do smart measures. Thank you.
Mr. Morrison?
So one of the sort of two key things to situate us are in this budget conversation. The first is that even without the property tax increase, because of that higher assessment, we're looking at $150 million of additional revenue between fiscal year 26 and the upcoming fiscal year 27. So we can live within that $150 million, and it's about slowing the rate of growth. It's about deferring new programs, which is about $30 million in discretionary choices this year. It's about working with our labor partners to get to a place in terms of compensation that works for the fiscal situation we're in. And it's about both county government and the schools budget prioritizing within the resources we have. And let's be very clear, it's pressures from both the county government budget and the schools budget that on their own, as proposed by the executive and the school board, would require this tax increase. So the conversation we have to have, the conversation I have every day in my job trying to manage a $22 billion budget at the Maryland Department of Transportation, is what can we prioritize now, what can we phase, and how do we slow that rate of growth to better match the resources we have, which at $150 million is not peanuts, but something we can really rely on to try to improve our service today. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Spielberg?
When we consider the budget, there is the immediate, the budget that's the first year, and then there's how to think about it in the long term. So in the first year, I think some of the issues that need to be considered are how do we ask the schools, which just sent the largest increase ever that was unanimously passed by the Board of Education, recommended $186 million increase in the school spending. We need to support our schools, but we need to ask what can we do, what can we phase in? So that's one. I would closely examine what we're doing in duplication. Our approval process is not simply in our permitting. We want to create an environment where our companies feel welcomed and where the whole process is welcoming, and that is not just in permitting. There is duplication between the planning and our executives, and I understand where that is, and I would ask questions and how can we have some efficiency there. The third, I would support our incubators and our business centers. We have a lot of great news in Montgomery County. Samsung Biologics just opened their first manufacturing facility in the United States in Montgomery County. Our Celix uses cell therapy to find treatments and cures for cancer. They started an incubator here. Those are the kind of programs that we need to support.
Thank you very much. This is a 2-minute question. We received many questions from residents about a perceived failure by our county council to prioritize resident feedback and concerns on issues such as rezoning, the narrowing of Little Falls Parkway, and the proposed demolition of Chevy Chase Library. As a candidate for District 1, and should you be elected, what will you do when your constituents' views conflict with advancing your larger policy goals and priorities? Which side will you choose, and how will you determine that? Start with Mr. Morrison.
So in between my service, I worked about a decade ago for Councilmember Roger Berliner, and as I mentioned, now I work for the Maryland Department of Transportation. In between that, I spent 7 years as a project manager on major infrastructure projects throughout the Washington region. And one of my clients once said, "We bring Drew to all the bad meetings." It was not my job to be a designer. It was my job to be a strategist and a consensus builder, to be someone who brought folks around the table to figure out how could we work towards that long-term vision while respecting and responding to a range of diverse views. That's fundamentally the way I will approach my work. I agree. I think residents have felt rightly that they have not been heard in the way that they deserve to. I will be someone who sits down in those bad meetings where we're all not feeling great about the future of our community. I'll outline my values, how I see them being addressed. I'll listen to you to hear whether you think a proposal or a project meets that moment. I'll be very clear when there are moments where we may disagree, and I'm sure if elected, there will be something you disagree with me on. But you will hear me every step of the way articulate my thinking. You will make sure, you will know that I incorporated your feedback and changes into the proposal that's built, and I will work with you all along the way to make sure that we create a community where for every decision we make, we're also building trust. That's how I've done my work in hard projects all throughout the region, and that's what I'll do as a county council member. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Spielberg?
I will be a council member for District 1 that starts with the premise that we get a better product when we listen and work with residents from the beginning. That is how it had been done in the past with sector plans. They included advisory groups that included residents, businesses, and even environmental groups, that we get a better outcome that way. Little Falls Parkway, there were 2 better solutions that the planning board passed and then reversed again. Thousands of residents wrote in highlighting the the safety problems with emergency vehicles not being able to get through, with cut-through traffic. And as a council member, I would have listened to their concerns and figure out how we fix it. We have to treat residents not as the enemy, but as people who have good understanding of their own neighborhoods and what works and what doesn't work. They understand the traffic, the parking, and we can work together. Engagement should not be measured by the number of meetings that someone has. It is not about that. The question I will ask is, what did you hear from the residents, and what did you change or improve as a result of the residents? And I don't believe it's an either-or question. I believe we get a much better product when we work with residents and we can solve some of these problems. And that is the kind of council member I will be. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Yang?
As a long-time homeowner in this district, I will bring a Bethesda perspective onto the county council. And I represent this district, then I will be the champion for this district, that the people's will should decide the fate of this district. And I will have a track record of bringing results to this district. Many of you know that the school system just had a large 19 high school reboundary studied. In order to represent this area, I held town hall in Chevy Chase, town hall in Potomac. Hundreds show up. I gather everyone's feedback. I not only gather that, I put that to use. I work with the staff in planning. I work with the staff in mapping. I took them on field trip into the district so that they see what the residents mean. And the end result is, in this district, we have preserved the stability for all our residents. So it is a clear message that you don't make decision without the community at the table, Good intention is important, strong champion is important, but deliver result is our ultimate goal. As your council member, I will make sure your voice is not only heard, not only elevated, but is incorporated into the final decision.
Thank you. This is a 2-minute question. And we will start with Ms. Spielberg. What is your position on single-family zoning? Do you believe there is still a place for neighborhoods zoned exclusively for single-family homes? And how would you address that on the council?
Yes, there is a place for single-family zones, and there is a place for good and sensible planning, which is what has been done over time generally. So accepted planning principles start with high density, closest to your heaviest transit, and then it tends out down. The concept that we should allow building any kind of housing anywhere, anyhow, ignores the realities on the ground and ignores the neighborhoods. So when you put density anywhere and you allow anything to happen, you have to take into account what happens to traffic, what happens to stormwater management, what happens to school capacity and other capacities. Planning has to consider those kind of things, and it has not to this point. We need and we have a variety of housing choices. That makes sense, and we need to continue to have that. Some people want to live in homes. Some people want to rent in large buildings. Some people want to own condos or townhouses. And we are supposed to provide all those different kinds in a way that makes sense, that our roads can handle it, our transit can handle it, and our school capacity can handle it. It is when you move density away from our transit centers, then you create bigger problems, then it's called sprawl. And we have to have a sensible approach to how we deal with zoning and not view residents who make a choice different from someone else as the enemy. It's how do we accommodate the many different kinds of housing choices and understand how they work so that we have decent stormwater management, traffic management, and adequate transportation in schools. And as a council member, I will make sure to ask those questions on each sector plan and as decisions go forward, and I will hold our staff accountable.
Thank you. Ms. Yang?
Yes, I live in a single-family home. I believe there is place for single-family home. I'm not in favor of blanket upzoning of single-family home. Any planning changes should follow the carefully crafted master plan and sector plan. What you find special about your neighborhood is worth protecting. Now, we do need housings of all types. We need more options. They are young families starting out. They are older adults downsizing. And they are our children returning from college. We need all sorts of housing. There's a place for duplexes, triplexes, townhouses, and apartment buildings. I have seen them work in different places. I lived in Hawaii before. There were a lot of duplexes and triplexes in our neighborhoods, and they work. And even here, right off Forest Road, there is a community called Claggett Farm. It has duplexes in it. It worked very well, and the key is it was a planned neighborhood with community participation. When I lived in Hawaii, I lived in a duplex. It didn't work. I felt that I have to do a somersault with my car to get into my parking slot. So the key is planning, community engagement, following the process of community feedback, respecting the master plan, sector plan, incorporated, making sure infrastructure follows, stormwater management follows, and has a transparent process to earn the community's trust.
Thank you. Mr. Morrison?
So I also agree that single-family homes play a fundamental role in our community. I grew up in a single-family neighborhood, and one of my proudest moments when I was 8 years old, when we finally owned the home in Montgomery County in Mohican Hills, was the backyard. I remember running through the backyard at closing day. Plays a fundamental role in our communities, and I support them. And I've been really disappointed by some of the language that came from the planning process that sought to demonize the wonderful neighborhoods we have in our community. But I'm also someone who's a renter who hopes to be a District 1 homeowner sooner rather than later. And my wife and I, and she's in the audience, went on Zillow last night. And in District 1, there was one single-family detached home for sale in all of District 1 for under $900,000. So in terms of that mix of housing that we need in the right places, right now it's challenging for teachers, firefighters, even people at the top of the federal salary scale to find that home in our community. And so I do think we need to be focused on the right housing in the right places. I agree very strongly on focusing on transit-oriented development. Something I've done at the Maryland Department of Transportation has been to rebuild the transit-oriented development program statewide. And we need to work with urgency. I don't think the White Flint Mall, which everyone agrees should be a place that creates housing and opportunity, should be a hole in the ground for 8 years. I live right by the old Ranger surplus in downtown Bethesda. Everybody was vacated out of that 8 years ago, and now it's a blight on my community and my neighbors. If we're going to build the housing in the right places, we have to do it now with urgency, address the site-specific issues. I bring experience working on that, and that's what I'll do at the County Council.
Thank you. This is a 90-second question. Are there, to start with Ms. Yang, are there any bills that have been passed by the County Council that you would like to see amended or repealed, and why?
Great question. The council passed a bill called More Housing Now recently, and that is a series of initiative. Now, I applaud the intention behind passing this bill is to increase housing supply, to address the missing middle housing in our county, and it fit into the goal of Thrive 2050, and that is a good start. However, we need to establish guardrails and metrics when we implement new policies. And these are the guardrails and I would like to put in place. We need to start out with a pilot, small, in a targeted area, and then evaluate its implementation and outcome along the way. The metric must include clear data on transportation, stormwater management, and all the infrastructure on the issue. So that is the process we need to follow, and that is the process always follow engagement, planning, execution, and evaluation. So that will be the approach I take to make sure that we start small, evaluate along the way. And actually done it on the school board. We have a curriculum that piloted and didn't work called Leader in Me. And we cut it and saved taxpayer $21 million.
Thank you. Mr. Morrison?
One of the most challenging issues that the council has had to confront and affects me personally as a renter is how to provide stable, affordable rents in our community. And there was legislation passed, the rent stabilization bill, that I think has not worked as intended. Evictions have stayed the same or gotten worse since passage. Multifamily production in the year since the bill was passed has gone down by 96%. My master's degree from MIT is in housing economics, and we've seen in communities like St. Paul, Minnesota, similar effects where not well-crafted rent stabilization law has unfortunately not had the positive impacts for renters that we were looking for. I want to make sure we get the balance right. That master's thesis, part of it was about economics, the other part was about how do we hold landlords to account when they're not treating tenants well. I'll make sure that we focus on rent gouging lodging prohibitions, that we're investing in affordable housing and preserving existing affordable housing through our community, but that we get the balance right so that folks continue to invest. Because I always joke, as a tenant, my best opportunity is an outside option. That person building the new apartment building next to me is my leverage with my landlord, and I want to make sure I have that going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Spielberg?
We need to think every time, as a council member, my first question would be, are our actions in the public interest? And so there are a number of actions that have been taken that are not necessarily advancing the public interest. When we use public land, taxes, or resources, we need to get a lot of bang for our buck. So I would repeal the bill that gave a 20-year tax break to commercial properties that are 50% vacant. One could argue they're also 50% full, and that convert to residential with a tiny increase in the affordable housing. 20 years. There were conversions already happening without any tax incentives. Tax incentives may be appropriate at times, but to mandate it across without any regard to what we're getting for our public benefit does not make sense and is not good policy. I would also go back and visit the Adequate Public Facilities Ordinance, which has been eroded over time. It's a long, boring title, but what it means is that we're delivering that when development comes, it's bringing the infrastructure that is needed to accompany it. It's important. I would use my experience, my understanding of what I've seen happen over the last 17 years with sector plans, with votes on the Adequate Public Facilities Ordinance, and with other land use decisions to make sure that we're bringing better land use and other decisions to the council.
Thank you. This is a 2-minute question, and we are turning to MCPS. About half of the county budget is spent on Montgomery County Public Schools. We have also learned in the last year that on top of this budget, MCPS has staggering maintenance and construction needs. Nearly $750 million is required just to fix bad HVAC systems and leaky roofs. The Board of Ed, the county executive, and the county council have all expressed shock at learning about the depth of these deficiencies. This is a 2-part question to start with Mr. Morrison. Has the Board of Education done enough to adequately supervise the MCPS system and its spending? And 2, what do you think the role of the county council should be in overseeing MCPS and its budget? Right now, the council is the last vote on the budget plan, but not much of an overseer.
So I do not believe that the school board has done enough to oversee the operational results and the capital budget of the school system. To start with the capital budget, we've seen too many projects go way over budget. Woodward High School, the electric school bus procurement, these have been things that have eaten up capacity that could be going to address real needs in terms of condition in our school. We haven't been asking at the school board or at the county council enough questions about how are we delivering best practices with the dollars we have now. There's no doubt that there is growing need throughout the system. 20 years ago, 25% of students qualified for free and reduced meals. Now it's 45%. But there's also no doubt that we are a leading system in terms of overall per pupil funding. Fundamentally, the council has to ask the question. Last year, we gave you this amount of money more. What did you do with it? What did we see in terms of student outcomes? And how can we expect that this next incremental dollar will drive those positive outcomes as well? It's fundamentally the job as the council to stand up for the school system, but also to make sure it fundamentally delivers for your children. And that will be the focus and the approach that I take. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Spielberg?
The Board of Education has not done enough. there is much more that needs to be done. We know that there's declining graduation rates, even in schools in District 1. There are schools with mold, with HVAC that doesn't work, with leaky roofs. The questions now, so the council does not dictate the policy for the Board of Education, but through budget oversight, the council can have a more expansive role and ask, how are we using the fact that there is a declining enrollment to address overcrowding issues? The needs are growing while the enrollment's declining. What are we doing to address maintenance in the most efficient way possible? Have energy service performance contracts been considered? Are there ways to bundle how we do different services on maintenance? What are the administrative burdens on teachers and other staff? Is there a way to reduce them, to provide some sort of relief in ways that go beyond the actual financial part? So it's a matter of, as a council member, I would, one, work with members of the Board of Education to understand what they see as the issues, to work with the teachers and the staff, and then to bring that understanding to the county council to ask the questions within the budgetary framework, which I think is crucial to do, especially given that it is half the operating budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Yang.
I have not been on the sideline. I've been doing the work. And I stepped up to run for the Board of Education 3.5 years ago during a crisis moment in our system when we are dealing with pandemic learning loss, a leadership crisis, and increasing need in our communities. And we are still the flagship school system in the state of Maryland, and a big reason why people choose to live in Montgomery County. And in the last 2 years, our 3-star and above school increased from 189 to 201. Now, there are a lot of challenges. We're talking about 2 buckets of money, the capital improvement money and the operation money. Since I only have now $1.5 million, I will pick one to talk about, the capital improvement money. Pre-pandemic, we were chasing capacity because of population change. We add 21 schools between 2010 to 2025. And then and our maintenance budget from the council appropriation remained the same for 15 years. And you and I know the money 15 years and the money 15 years now, they don't worth the same thing. So what did we do? We kicked the can down the road. And here we are at the end of the road. And we have $700 million HVAC needs, but it's a very large number. But just to replace one HVAC in our high school, it's about $35 million. There are things we can do. Number one is we need to be creative in funding. Now, Prince George's County has a successful P3 models, and we need to advocate for the state for the build to learn money for the maintenance. And lastly, we can do better with project management. Thank you. I hope we can have another chance to talk about this.
Yeah, actually, you will get another chance at the end. Okay.
Wonderful.
This is a 2-minute question. Mm-hmm. Everyone says they are for economic development, but the county is not producing high-quality new jobs. What are 3 specific things that must change to stimulate economic development and bring businesses to Montgomery County? Ms. Spielberg.
Montgomery County has had some real wins, and we need to build on those wins. I mentioned earlier Samsung Biologics. We have AstraZeneca, Horizon Therapeutics. We have Intellian, Millipore Sigma, Autonomous Therapeutics. We need to build on our wins. We need to work on our life sciences sector and help how we make them grow. Part of that is the Institute for Health Computing, which is a partnership between the state, the county, and the University of Maryland system. And it brings together big data to understand how we can provide better treatment and cures for diseases. And it's a place for our life sciences companies to come together in a collaborative and collision space as well. We need to support our business incubators. Our CELIX began in the Rockville County Incubator. They went on to be listed on the NASDAQ and then recently were bought by Gilead for $7.5 billion. The CEO of our CELIX talked about the importance of the incubators and the talent pipeline that we have here in Montgomery County, which we need to support from MCPS to Montgomery College to universities at Shady Grove to help prepare our students for the good jobs that we need to create. And part of the incubators take a good idea with a business that's small, and we help them when they're small and help them grow, and then they want to stay here. The other part is how we become more responsive. Part of that is delivering the infrastructure that a regional survey showed that what businesses want is transportation and infrastructure. Northern Virginia did it. Businesses are paying higher taxes there because they're delivering and have an approval process, both permitting and in planning staff, that actually works and delivers. And that's what we need to do.
Thank you.
Montgomery County is open for businesses. This is the area we need to focus on. And we can tap into our strengths in the bioscience area, but that is not the only area we need to grow. We need to grow in many other areas. First, we need to set business up for success. Max Ice Cream in the Woodmont Triangle waited 7 months for permit. That is too long. We can do better. Number two, we need to invest in the business engine that fueled our economic development. I mentioned earlier, our primary tool to use is the Economic Development Corporation. And right now, its funding is less than 0.1%. We need to give it the tools so that it can go out to sell Montgomery County, to recruit and retain business here. And number three is, let's set business up, let's really invest and help them succeed here in Montgomery County. You cannot expect a good baker also is a great HR lawyer. So let's have a true mentorship program to connect them to someone who has done it successfully in the county, and also connect them with resources in the state of Maryland. And lastly, let's connect our priority. The county needs to set the table to bring everyone together. We have green initiative. That's one of my legislative priorities. We want clean energy, so let's get clean jobs. For example, the solar panel installer, there are many clean jobs out there. So we need to set the table to align workforce with local labor apprenticeships programs. And that's where I bring a unique sense of where our need is and how to do this across the whole system.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to start by reinforcing how critical this question is, because sometimes there are stats I've seen that not everyone knows. Since 2008, we still have fewer private sector jobs here in Montgomery County than we did before the Great Recession. And as we're looking at these federal cuts, that's going to have an $800 million negative impact on our tax revenue because of these impacts from Trump's cuts. So we have to look at this issue, and I'm going to talk about a few P's that will get us there. The first is partnership. And when you hear that Fairfax County is taking our jobs, well, their Economic Development Corporation has 15 people focused on attraction and retention of business. We have 5. The number one thing I hear from business leaders is no one from the county calls. It's because we don't have the staff to call. The second thing is partnerships and policies. Our biotech sector is moving into something called health manufacturing, and Virginia and North Carolina are eating our lunch in that space. What's one of the big factors? Their workforce development, their community colleges are really aligned with their economic development strategy. We have a great community college in Montgomery College, but it's not often at the table with our business leaders identifying how do we evolve our programming to meet your needs. We need the policies to stand out in a competitive world. There's a great company in Montgomery County called Uncommon Cures that's working on state legislation to make Maryland a leading place for rare disease trials throughout the country. Because the challenging part of rare diseases is you need to find a lot of patients throughout the country, and they're working to create the landscape that would make Maryland the place to invest if you're looking to solve rare diseases. And the last piece is permitting. Fundamentally, that's a reason a lot of businesses say, I'm never doing this again. Orange Theory has blacklisted Montgomery County because we held up the Bethesda location over the location of a water fountain. I'm the only Democratic candidate who's ever submitted a site plan for permits and gotten conflicting comments from reviewers, so I know how firsthand to solve the permitting challenge. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a 2-minute question. What is a key county-level issue, such as budgets, public safety, housing, or education, in which your thinking has evolved over time, and how has that evolution changed your position and your approach to this problem or issue? And we'll start with Ms. Yang.
How my thinking have evolved? Many things have evolved. For one thing, my understanding about how important community's voice is in the process of decision making. We can't make decisions without community at the table. I'll give you a few examples. We all know that Old Georgetown bike lane and the Old Georgetown 495 off-ramp emerge from 495 is a hazard at the moment. And that project started out as a good intention to improve safety for our bikers and motorists. And it is an important issue. However, during that process, community's voice was not involved, and it was not part of it. And then we come up with a solution, and now solution that does not work and create another safety hazard. I use it every day, and many people use every day. And so this is something that helped me understand that the community's voice is crucial in our decision making. And that we need to use it. If we understand it, then we need to use it. We have seen places where we are successful in incorporating community's voice. For example, during this boundary study, we have a grand plan, a proposal to divide Bradley Hill Elementary School into 2 parts. Send them across Green Tree Road to go to a middle school. On the map, it doesn't even look like it's a major road. But in reality, when I heard from the community, I went there, we walk it, we drive it, we know the visibility is not good, we know that it's a lot of accident happened there. So we change it, and that is a successful story of having the community at the table for decision making.
Thank you. Mr. Morrison?
I definitely think one area that's been a challenge for all of us has been thinking through the question of public safety in our community and how we address the competing challenges we have around providing a safe, compassionate community in Montgomery County. And definitely during the course of this campaign, I've heard a lot of concerns from folks about where we are in public safety in Montgomery County. We've had a structural deficit of police officers. We're a couple hundred short. And one of the big ways that's impacting folks is detectives. There aren't that many detectives at the 2nd District anymore. And that means a lot of property crimes and the like that maybe you've experienced are just not getting investigated. They're being treated as insurance matters. We've We've had the question of school resource officers and how to protect our kids. And I do think it makes sense for us to look again at providing school resource officers at MCPS to get on top of the challenges that we're seeing. We've had the incident at BCC, at Wooten High School more recently, and I think we need to try to take these issues head on, because I think over the last few years we've all been working together to figure out what's the right balance on public safety, and I think there's more we can do to help rebuild our police ranks and get school resource officers to help mentor and engage with the children in our schools and get on top of the school safety issues that we've seen not addressed for too long.
Thank you, Ms. Spielberg.
I have learned quite a bit over the last 17 years working at the council and for the county executive. I have learned in budgets when it looks like that there's overtime, how can we reduce it in our public safety departments? And I have understood that in police and fire, that overtime is to provide the critical services that we need to provide when it's very difficult to hire additional people. So it's not just a matter of eliminating overtime, because it's still money that's being spent either way. And I've understood you make those decisions about how we're going to use our resources and what is the right number to hire and what is the right number to give overtime. I have learned that in planning, that it is important to empower the communities and to give voice to communities, and that one cannot assume that the right thing will just happen, and that it is important to engage and to empower. So, for example, I have learned that in places like in downtown Bethesda, where the Ranger Rick property is run down, planning could have insisted that this is privately owned property, and before allowing an extension of the approval, planning could have insisted that the site be cleaned up. Residents raised this issue, but it was really important that residents had to raise it because planning was not paying attention to that. I've learned that in these are private properties, and there are ways in White Flint at the Ranger Rick property, those are privately owned, and there are levers that the government can use through planning, through permit approvals. And I have learned that sector plans require deep engagement, and that communities have to be empowered to speak up and to continue to raise their voices, and that once is not enough. And I have learned there is a tremendous importance in oversight by the county council. It's not just legislation, it is county council holding oversight and echoing and being the voice for the communities.
Thank you. Bless you. We have now reached the uncomfortable question part of the evening. Everybody gets one, and now tag, you all three are it. Every candidate has an Achilles heel, a perception that, fairly or unfairly, they must work to overcome. D1 residents have raised a variety of questions and concerns for each candidate, and I'd like to give each of you an opportunity to respond directly to, if I can really mix the metaphor at a democratic forum, the elephant in the room. Mr. Morrison, you get to go first. There are 2 minutes, thank you, yes. Some residents have noted that they haven't seen you get involved in recent citizen efforts, of which there have been many, on major District 1 issues, and that you've also chosen not to use public financing, unlike your opponents. Indeed, records show that you have a lot of donations that are coming from outside District 1. How do you respond to voters who are concerned about financial backers and the depth of demonstrated commitment to District 1?
Great. I'll answer that in 3 ways. The first is that in my work that I've done, working at the county council, working as a consultant supporting a lot of public sector clients, and working at the Maryland Department of Transportation, my job has often been in the room. I have been someone who at the Maryland Department of Transportation has advancing statewide policy and working with elected leaders in Montgomery County, working with staff folks at that level. As a consultant, I supported the county on a number of initiatives, the Ride on Reimagine program, providing buses to the Great Seneca Transit Network to support jobs and transportation. So I've done that work as a consultant, as a government official, and played that role as well. I've done traditional financing because the work that I have done has been throughout the region. I've worked with partners in Virginia. I've worked with folks in Maryland, not just in Montgomery County. And so in seeking to tell my story, I've sought the support of folks that I've worked with throughout the DC region, not everyone in Montgomery County, but the folks who know the good work that I've done to advance progressive policy reforms. My commitment to this community is clear. I grew up here. I love it. I worry about the impacts that all of the federal changes are having on our community. I knock on a lot of doors and I hear directly from folks about how they lost their contract at USAID, about how the property tax increase might cause them to move out of their home. I'm running a grassroots campaign. You'll see me all across the district because I've been working all across the district in this campaign, and I'll bring that expertise that I've brought at the state level, county, and regional level to address the concerns in the future of our shared community. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Spielberg, you currently have a top staff and advisory role in the county executive's office. Mark Elrick's tenure as executive has drawn very mixed reactions, including most recently strong negative responses to his latest budget proposal, suggested tax increases, and to the county's overall fiscal situation after his tenure. How do you respond to D1 voters who want a significantly different approach and different priorities from those of the Elrick administration?
If anyone has ever worked with me, they know that I do my homework and I make an analysis and I speak up. I have tremendous respect for County Executive Mark Elrich. Otherwise, I would not have worked for him all these years. One of the things he values the most is someone who will have differing opinions and will have arguments and discussions, and who wants to bring facts to the decision. You asked if people don't want to support. I am not running necessarily on his policies. I've been very clear on what I want to do for District 1, and I've been clear on how I have helped with District 1. I've worked with communities all over District 1 on issues that I believe are important to them, about resident voices, the Bethesda sector plan. When are we going to get the Farm Women's Market Park? When are we going to get the rest of the parks promised? How do we make sure that the Friendship Heights sector plan is responsive to communities and preserves open space? I've worked to save the trees in Norwood Park and to have a sensible plan. I've talked against Little Falls Parkway and the irrational decisions made. I have advocated for tenant protections and worked with the tenants in the Willard. I have worked on the help to the Kid Museum to bring air conditioning to Glen Echo. Hallelujah. So I've worked with residents to protect our green spaces. So I would say, judge me by what I've done, who I've worked with, and what I'm saying I will do. It is very clear that I do my research, I know the issues, and I will work with the community as I always have. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Yang. Many families are increasingly despairing over the state of MCPS, from the condition of its buildings to safety issues and declining student achievement. The Board of Ed has primary oversight of MCPS, and some residents feel that critical concerns have been ignored and the hard questions have not been asked. You've been part of the board for almost 3.5 years, including 1 year as board president. How do you respond to voters who think the Board of Ed has too often not delivered on its responsibilities, especially in the areas of accountability and responsiveness?
Thank you for that question. The need of our community is great. We mentioned how big the budget is, and because that's how much we ask the schools to do. And I will share a few things of my playbook on the Board of Education. I mentioned I stepped up to run during a crisis moment in MCPS. And when the time that we were dealing with pandemic learning loss, we were dealing with a leadership crisis, we are dealing with budget constraints. Now, but I have been doing the work and what's in my playbook. I believe every dollar needs to be well spent. So in the last 2 years, we have cut $18 million in administrative costs and move it to the classrooms. I focus on return of investment. And we piloted a program. And when it was not working, right, when it came back to us to scale up to the whole system, I insisted on the evaluation. When the evaluation was not positive, my colleague and I worked together to stop funding the program and return it, the time, back to the teacher to do something more effective. And then I also believed that every one of us need to use data and use facts to make decisions, social education. So that is why last year, as the president of the board, together with my colleagues and the school system, we developed the facility indexed, condition indexed. And that is how we make our decision on which building to fix, not by anecdotes, but at data. And I ask all of you to go and see how we have changed our budget process. Please go to MCPS and type in budget. You will see every line item, and in the line item, you can see how we do our math. There are a lot more to do. The road is wrong, the need is great, the work continues.
Thank you. We're going to turn now to a public safety question.
Okay.
As has been mentioned a little bit earlier here, residents do feel less safe. Retail theft and car smash and grab incidents in the middle of the day are increasing in our area, and some residents feel that the police are not doing enough. Students are also bringing guns and knives to school. At the same time, our police force struggles to attract recruits. Estimates are that we are down 200 police officers in the county. There is a 19% vacancy rate for patrol officers, and response times are rising. 71 officers are projected to retire in the near future, but there were just 8 new police recruits in the latest class. How will you address public safety if you are elected to the council? Ms. Spielberg.
There are
2 minutes, sorry.
There are a variety of strategies. First, with concerns about crime, some of it is staying in touch with the police. So for the break-ins, the police has a variety of strategies, and people have to, it's some of the basic stuff, people have to lock their cars, people have to, the police are using increased technology. We now have drones that have made a real difference in trying to be able to can get to a crime scene faster and can help with it. And in addition, we need to explore the possibility of using things like Ring cameras. Part of it is helping our police be more out in the communities and to have a presence there. So we need to have a fully staffed police force. That is a problem not just in Montgomery County, but in places around the country where it's hard to get more police recruits. So some of that includes we need to pay our police, continue to pay our police well. Sometimes actually overtime is a good thing for them if they choose to exercise it. We need a change in the state law that prohibits recruits who have smoked cannabis in the last year, that they can't be a police officer. Cannabis is now legal in Maryland. It's a crazy law that needs to end. We've changed education standards so that they can earn their police officers can earn their degrees as they're working and training. And we need to promote a lot of that and help get it through. There's a lot that we can do in conjunction, working both with our unions and the management and the community together to improve public safety. And in our schools, we need to improve the safety and work with our students and with our police officers to how we make it a safer environment there.
Thank you, Ms. Yang.
Yes, due to limited time, I will try to divide it into 2 parts. For public safety, it is about presence, protection, and partnership. And there are two major concerns and two things we can do. Number one is to use technology. Camera is an important tool. Neighbors have told me that they have been robbed in the garage of a spot that didn't have a camera coverage. So let's continue to improve our coverage for public safety. Number two is partnership. I'm always so pleased and happy to see our police force coming to our school career day or attend a neighborhood association meeting. They are getting to know the community. We are building trust together. That is going to go a long way in improving our safety in the community. Now, I will also want to address the school safety. Time has changed. We have seen in February how a dispute between two students can quickly elevate it to a scary moment for the whole community. We need a layered approach. Yes, a good positive culture, say something is important, but we also need secure doors. We also need cameras. We also need trained personnel and partnership with the police personnel. And that is where SROs can be a good partner in doing this work. School resource officers can react when seconds matter. They can build relationship and become mentors for our students. So all in all, we need to have a layered approach, partnership, presence, and partnership, presence, and protection all together.
Thank you. Mr. Morrison.
I think there's a lot of shared values, and I spoke a little bit to this earlier, but I'll highlight, I think, a key few ways to think about how we get on top of public safety issues. We want to make sure that we're able to address the way that criminal organizations organize the work that they do, particularly around property crime. Right? What's happening right now with property crime, whether it's a downtown Bethesda business or I was talking to someone whose contractor truck got robbed in Chevy Chase, is it's treated as an insurance matter because we don't have the detectives to really go beyond the person who's doing the snatch and grab, who is a low-level member of a larger organization, to really dive into the networks. So in a place where we're 200 police officers short, we need to look at how in particular can we focus recruitment on detectives? How can we find innovative ways to up our detective ranks to get on top of these crimes quicker? And how can we look at, as the council is, at more civilian roles within the police department so we make sure officers are policing and not just doing paperwork? And that's a fundamental piece. We also have to get this nexus right with the Department of Juvenile Services. So the Department of Juvenile Services at the state level plays a critical role when a juvenile is arrested. And there's been a number of cases where I think people in our community feel that DJS dropped the ball in terms of addressing what was a serious incident, and we really need to provide a targeted, effective intervention to help a 15, 16-year-old avoid what could be a really serious outcome for the rest of their lives if we don't help them get on the right path. So it's not just our county police leaders, it's really our statewide public safety officials who need to be part of the problem solution as well. And as I mentioned, I do think school resource officers are a key piece of getting on top of these issues early. They can be trusted resources for students who are seeing bullying, who are seeing low levels of violence, to make sure it does not become the type of violent incidents we've seen.
Thank you. All right, we've reached our lightning round, which will be yes or no questions. Each candidate has a little laminated flip sign, yes or no. So, and these are truly yes or no. So I'm going to do the question. We'll see who's a yes and who's a no. Okay, the first question is, do we need more bike lanes on major county arteries and state roads? Yes or no? It is a yes or no. You can use your pass if you want. All right, a no and two maybes. Okay. Do you support regulating data centers in the county? 3 yeses. The first cuts to services when budget issues hit are often local libraries, hours, staffing, and programs that serve children. Do you support using libraries as a first choice for budget cuts? 3 no's. Is the MCPS budget too big?
It is big.
As proposed?
Yes.
It is big.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Well, it is big.
Yes, 2 yeses and a hesitant yes. Okay, from Ms. Spielberg. The state of Maryland wants more control over housing policy statewide. One recent major bill in Annapolis was the Starter and Silver Act. Although it didn't pass, it would have reduced lot sizes to 5,000 square feet and allowed townhomes in nearly all single-family neighborhoods with water and sewer across the state. Are you a yes or a no on the main principles of the Starter and Silver Act? 3 no's. Small houses are often torn down to build far larger ones. Would you support legislation to limit the size of new builds? Yes, 2 yeses and a maybe from Ms. Spielberg. How would you have voted on the recent ZTA 2502, which was the workforce housing corridor zoning bill that passed last year? Yes or no? Yes from Mr. Morrison, no from Ms. Spielberg and Ms. Yang. Do you support or oppose rent stabilization? Support or oppose rent stabilization? Yes, rent stabilization, or no rent stabilization?
But there,
Okay.
We cannot-
Yes from support. Yes, Ms. Spielberg. No, Mr. Morrison and Ms. Yang. Okay. Last question of the evening. This will be so you have time for your closing statements. We're going to go with 90 seconds for this question. Residents have expressed major concerns about the county planning board, from ignoring racial equity findings in its University Boulevard corridor plan to being dismissive of citizen concerns and abandoning the master planning process, to failing to follow through on key project elements such as building the required parks in Bethesda and green space, to allowing the builder not to bury the power lines at Chevy Chase Lake. Are you satisfied with the planning board's performance? And that can be a yes or no. And for an unelected board, does it have too much power? And what, if any, changes would you insist upon to its approach? Mr. Morrison, you're the last one up.
Last one first up.
Last one first up.
I'm not satisfied with the planning board or planning department. As a planner, I have a master in city planning. I attended the Friendship Heights sector plan meeting a couple of weeks ago. It was a 90-minute meeting. The planning staff talked at folks for 80 minutes. It was a mix of too high level on the things you care about and too jargony on things I even had to think about. Did I learn about that in planning school? I think we can do a better job of engaging and listening, and I'll make sure that we appoint planning board leaders who help us get there, that we make sure the planning department is really thinking about its target audience, working with you to build trust as we deal with these difficult challenges. How do we revitalize communities? How do we provide new housing? And how do we think not only about today, but about 20 years in the future? There's a way we can do that in a way that I think is more effective than we've seen over the last few years. And as I mentioned, my career has been all about how do we structure these conversations to achieve that goal. And so that will be my focus. I do think that there are a number of things that are treated as administrative decisions that sometimes I think for folks it isn't clear on what level of role the public really is able to weigh in on. So I want to make sure on things that go through site plan or preliminary plan, it's a little clearer for folks on how residents can weigh in, make their voice heard, and if we have a responsive planning board, I think your voice will be heard. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Spielberg.
No, I'm not satisfied with the planning board, and that's because I've talked to communities all over this county who have been tremendously disappointed. The planning board is appointed by the county council. and it is unlike almost anywhere else in the state. It is not accountable. So step one, as a council member, I will hold the planning board accountable. As there are vacancies, I will make sure that the planning board appointees are people who come from the community as they used to. We don't need professional planners on the planning board. And we need to also address duplication. Part of the problem, we've all heard about problems businesses have had siting here and developing here. Much of it happens through the planning process, so it takes a long time, and yet no one's really happy with the outcome. It costs a lot of money. Residents don't understand when it goes through development review committee, where do they get to weigh in? Where do they get to make their decisions? The county council has to deal with the oversight, and they have to be careful not to have charades. It's not simply a requirement to have a community meeting. That's a requirement. What happens to the community comments? How do the community get involved in that? As with my years of experience and understanding with land use and zoning, I understand where a district council member can work with colleagues and lead to make sure that we get the planned communities that we all deserve. Thank you.
Ms. Yang?
Wow. No. After all, we need reform. We are the few jurisdiction that has two entities that's involved in the approval process, planning and Department of Permit Services. I believe on the planning board, we need District 1 representation, and that's a reform we need to do. Number 2, engagement need to be sincere and true. I have been participating in the Friendship Heights Sector Planning community meetings. One meeting was 90 minutes, and 80 minutes was planning board staff talking. That is not true community engagement. Number 3, not only residents are not satisfied, it is very confusing and frustrated for the development community to work with our planning board too. Many times, there are delays and they don't know who to go to, things to be going in circles. So I will propose there will be managers or navigators for specific project that can help them get to a yes or no sooner without cutting out community involvement. But the truth be told, with so many important decisions coming up for this district, Friendship Heights Sector Plan, the Sidwell Friends Schools is moving. Your councilmen need to be your representative, your voice, and I have the track record to deliver the results for the residents.
Thank you. All right. We have come to the closing statement part, so thank you all for staying here. Please stay for these are very quick, but thank you very much. I really appreciate all of you being here. And for closing statements, 2 minutes per candidate, and we will start with Mr. Morrison and go down the line.
Great. So this is a critical moment for communities like ours and how we respond. In the Trump era, Trump 2.0, blue communities like ours are directly under threat. They're taking federal grants from us. They're bringing the National Guard to our community. And I will be a steadfast champion for standing up to Donald Trump's illegal actions targeting communities like ours. But I also believe that this moment is a referendum for us on how blue communities deliver in spite of those challenges. How do we show that we can deliver on our values, survive, and even thrive amidst these challenges? Can we show that we can grow private sector jobs to build our community? Can we deliver a school system that works for every child? Can we address affordability challenges around housing, childcare, energy, rising property taxes, and continue to invest in things like infrastructure that we need to grow and support our quality of life? I've been really proud to be endorsed by Governor Martin O'Malley, who's a political hero of mine, because not only did he lead on progressive policy goals, he also asked hard questions through state stat and city stat to ask, are we delivering on our promises to our people? Places like Montgomery County need to show that blue progressive places can deliver on the moment. I think we need a break from the status quo to achieve that here now. I bring both a record of accomplishment and the vision to do that, and I hope to have your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Spielberg.
I am ready to get to work for the residents of District 1. I have 17 years of experience at the council and the executive branch, and I'm going to put it to work for you. My values were shaped by my mother, who was a refugee from Nazi Germany, and I learned how to stand up and fight from my former boss, Congressman John Lewis. I moved to Montgomery County more than 25 years ago, and I've raised my 2 daughters here. They went through the school system. I served as PTA president and as volunteer chair for the state Senate campaign for Jamie Raskin. I'm committed to public service, and I've done that. I've worked night and day during COVID operations to help make sure we were one of the safest jurisdictions in the country and that we followed the advice of the health community. I've worked on saving Norwood Park. I have helped save trees in poorly designed sidewalks. I've helped small business navigate government, and I've worked to raise the minimum wage, and I've done much more. I will work for a fairer tax structure that doesn't put the burden all disproportionately on residents. I will demand that we get the parks we were promised in downtown Bethesda. I will advocate for the environment, that we have strict standards if we allow data centers to come here, and I will exercise oversight to make sure that we don't have another accident like happened on the Potomac Interceptor, and that we're providing, and that the infrastructure is being delivered the way it should be. I am proud to be endorsed by former Attorney General Brian Frosch and by the Sierra Club, and by the AFL-CIO, CASA in Action, Jews United for Justice, as well as many municipal elected leaders and community leaders. I will work for you. I will be honest about our challenges and our trade-offs, but I will use my experience and connection to communities to represent you well. Thank you, and I ask for your vote.
Thank you. Ms. Yang.
District 1 has high expectation for our leaders. Our neighbors want strong schools, healthy economy, and a government that works well, that listens to its residents. These are the values I uphold as the president of the Board of Education and as a public servant. And this, I came to this country because the opportunity it offers. I chose to live in our community because what this community offers. I don't take this for granted, and that needs our protection and strengthening. At this moment, when we are facing federal threat to working families, immigrants, and when we at a time at District 1, there are so many upcoming projects and important decisions that I have mentioned. We don't need talking points, we don't need theories, we need trusted, proven leadership. I have governed in scale, I have delivered results, I have managed a budget that's half the county's budget. And I have served and lived in this district and built the largest coalition. I'm endorsed by the teachers, the SEIU Local 500s, our retirees, and the volunteer firefighters, and the police, and a whole D15 legislative team. We will be together working for you. And at this moment, I have been served in this district, and I was here yesterday as a long-term homeowner, and I will be here today, tomorrow, and for the years to come. And let's together build a Montgomery County where we can learn, work, and live together. I'm be honored to earn your vote. Thank you.
Thank you to all of our candidates, Montgomery Municipal Media, and you.
Thank you to you.